Oh, good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Too loud? Okay. We're going to be mic'd up today, all of us, because we're live streaming this and having it available for those that couldn't make it in person. We're really happy you're here with us, and it's very nice to return to some of the things that we're used to doing, and there is no substitute sometimes for doing things in person. So we're glad you're here. We have actually a shorter presentation than we normally do, but it's kind of packed with information and really critical information. This is a vital year. These next 12 months together, we've got a lot of work to do. And you can say, I already got a lot of work to do. We always do. I mean, family members of a person with a disability understand fighting for things and being challenged and all of that. And it's an ongoing thing. We feel the same way. So without further ado, we'll kind of get going here. Here's the agenda for today, just 4 presenters. I'll kind of start it off. We just finished putting together a strategic plan for the next 3 years. It's not too difficult to look at the landscape and say, what are those things that we really need to fix on to be successful these next 3 years? Number one, inflation, as you know, is impacting everything, especially industries like ours, because the ability to respond to significant increases is tough. We're 90% publicly funded, and because of that, there's very limited movement in the government. Nothing happens very fast. So that'll be a huge challenge. The funding challenge has been with us a long time. In both states we operate in, we've had differing results from that. I'm going to show you some of those results, but also present kind of the road ahead in doing that. And then finally, a tight labor market, one that we have never seen. It is tough out there, and responding to it is also probably more unique than anything in the last, say, 50 or 60 years, because the workforce has changed. A lot of the kinds of things, the unique challenges that we're seeing now, happened during COVID. The realization about life and what you're doing, especially with young people and choices they're making, has affected our ability to recruit and get people and keep them in line with all these other effects in the environment. So those 3 things, principally. First, just talk about the unfilled job vacancies in the country, and many of you probably have seen this graph or know about it, but the most important piece is this vertical climb here since COVID. So we're right around 11 million jobs open in the United States currently, many of those in our industry. But to understand some of the funding fight that we're dealing with has to do with the previous history in here. So here's 2009, during the recession. You can see really down around 2 million job openings nationwide. Now, the average caregiver at St. Coletta in 2009 made $9.50 an hour, which from a public funding standpoint was about where government was. That is, they funded us very close to that. I can tell you at that particular time, my role at St. Coletta was the Director of Residential Operations. So I was very, very much in tune with DSPs at that point. We had no trouble attracting workers, even at $9.50 an hour. There was not too many openings. But then things have climbed over time, and then we hit the COVID bump, and then, of course, now. What'll change this? Well, probably a coming recession will have some impact on it. And that's not a good thing. It's just what we can see kind of coming over the horizon could be some of that. Meanwhile, we have to have ways to fill our team. And Nicole is going to talk about the staffing stuff, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But our strategic focus here is really advancing public funding and the advocacy to do that. Hiring our workforce. Nicole is going to show you some very good and detailed numbers about our workforce, maybe stuff you haven't seen before. So that'll be a major piece. If you can't figure out staffing today, you'll be out of business tomorrow. It's just the way it is, and a lot of businesses are going that way. And then finally, the long-term viability of the St. Coletta brand. We are the oldest provider in the state of Wisconsin. We are one of the oldest providers in the nation, going back to the 1904, the original kind of group there. St. Coletta brand is very distinct. And because of that, it's important that we retain those things that brought you to us in the first place and have kept you here. And with the sisters slowly kind of fading from the scene, we are the modern version of the Franciscans that started us. And capturing that identity and keeping it and being Franciscans, and yes, we are, and we promote that every day here, is a continued effort. A little bit about the funding landscape. Move that down my coat just a little bit. As mentioned, we're 90% public funded. So 10% private, 90% public, and the mix is 30% in Illinois. There is no private pay in the entire state of Illinois for us. It's all public funded. But 60% in Wisconsin is public pay under family care. So that family care system has a big influence on St. Coletta. Let's talk about Illinois for a minute. And this is a good news story, and we got some Illinois folks in here. And so they can recount some of this work. Just 5 years ago, we were in tough shape in Illinois because public funding was actually behind the state of Wisconsin. I can remember back in 2009 not having been paid for 6 months. You know, we had to advance not only the money but the care to do that for 6 months. It was always rocky and unsupportive. But it's changed. We have seen successive increases the last 4 years, and it's moved the needle significantly. So I'm leaning forward a little bit here, but as of January 1st, the state will provide about $17 an hour for DSPs. Our average pay is about $18.40 an hour. So it puts us within 11% of the cost of care in Illinois. And that, as a business person, you say, gosh, that don't sound too good. It's quite a bit of movement here and puts us in a solid spot, stabilizes the ground underneath us. Now, how did that happen? Illinois is a state that providers contract directly with. So St. Coletta deals directly with the state. So when you start talking about how do you influence money in Illinois, you do it through legislators and you do it directly. And that's what John Stockert and Mary and really the entire Illinois group has done, is they have reached out and grabbed a legislator and constantly said, you've got to move this number. You know, you're going to imperil the care system for my son, my daughter, my brother, my sister. And it's worked. It's worked. They have responded. So congratulations to them. We have, yeah, I agree. We got to do the same thing here. So in Wisconsin, as you know, in family care, you deal with managed care organizations. Now, these are private companies. They're private companies. They're not an arm of the government. The government doesn't run them. But sometimes it gets a little confusing when you hear names like My Choice Wisconsin or Community Care, that they're somehow connected directly to the state. They're not. They're a private company. They do their own business. But we do business with 3 of the 4 that are in the state of Wisconsin. So Inclusa, Community Care, and My Choice. And there is the mix, 11, 13, and 76% respectively. My Choice Wisconsin is our biggest partner. So moving the needle with those guys really changes the financial landscape for us. So if you're a My Choice person, we're going to rely on a partnership to try to move this thing. And I'll show you how in a minute. DSP average wage in Wisconsin, you can see $18.26 an hour in Jefferson and $17.83 in the greater Milwaukee area. The funding in the state of Wisconsin is $12 an hour. So you can see the great imbalance there. So when you start off, our balance sheet, that's where we start out, and we have to find a way to fill that. That's tough. Oh, let me back up just one if I can. There we go. Why does it cost more to do business in Jefferson than anywhere else in Wisconsin? This is a rural demographic, and competition for DSPs in this market is very tough. They're spread thin, and they're hard to get. It's a little easier in urban areas. It's similar in Illinois, as you have such a wider demographic to pull from. If you want to understand what's going on in the funding for care in Wisconsin, you don't have to look any further than this slide right here. So this takes us back to 2007, and for all practical purposes, 2007 was the beginning of family care. Now, they started pilots long before that, but 56 counties changed over about this time from a county system to family care. And at that time, when they made the switch, the state had to make sure that there was confidence in the family care system. And in order to do that, people were comfortable with the county system, except for the counties, because they were paying the bill, right? So how do you make people comfortable with this? Well, you provide funding that's similar to what they experienced at the county level. And they did. And so 2007, that time period, 2008, we were very close to break even with the funding for care and the care we were providing. Unfortunately, that's where it ended. From that point forward, it's been flat. The rates and stuff have stayed the same. And there is great reluctance. Now, you can say, well, why did that happen? A combination of things. One, it was the system design, but it also had to do with the MCOs involved here, and I'm going to show you why. But they are a private company, remember that. The biggest challenge here is inflation. So from 2007 to 2019, roughly about 1.75% every year inflation goes up, which is an incremental, very incremental climb. And year on year, for us, we found a way to make up for it. Some of it was cutting costs in our structure and our care somehow, trying to be more efficient, things like that, raising more money. That's what made the difference there. But here's where it got tough. So we're underwater about 23% by 19. We get the year of COVID, which inflation was lower, but mind you, what was going on inside our organization, there was a lot more cost. why we went to 24/7 ops at our houses. Day programs shut down, so we had a drop in revenue. And we had to get creative. We took advantage of every government stimulus program that was out there. We got the PPP loan, we got the CARES Act money. We took advantage of the opportunities that were out there the same way the sisters did. I mean, the funding challenge has been part of St. Coletta's life from all the way back. And what is the approach? Innovation, taking advantage of opportunities, and we did that. We got through COVID safely, thankfully. The help of very good staff. We didn't lose anybody to COVID. We didn't anybody get really seriously sick. That was a good thing. And then, of course, the climb out of COVID. 4.6% increase last year. We're at 9.1 right now with no end in sight. This climb right here, more importantly, this entire wedge shows what we've had to cover in terms of funding. Over that period of time, how much are we talking here? $20 million we've had to come up with, much to your help. You've helped us fund some of this. But that $20 million really belongs in our foundation and helps us fund capital improvements and new construction and things like that. Instead, it went in the pocket of MCOs in Wisconsin. Okay? So I'm going to show you just some examples of this, because this has quietly been going on. Now, when we go into negotiations for a new contract, one of the things the MCOs say, well, this is the rate. This is our formula for this. And it's always short. 30% short, 40% short. And they say, we can't give you any more. Well, that can be believable, except this. Now, this is 2020. This is right off of their 990s. In fact, this is pulled off the state website. Profits, inclusive, $22 million, almost 23. LCI, which we don't do business, was the low one. My Choice Wisconsin, they made $25 million, 1 year. That's profit now. This is a nonprofit making a profit of $25 million. Here is Community Care, $35 million, 1 year, nonprofit, making a profit. No explanation. I've sent emails to these CEOs asking them, can you explain this? Because you tell us you don't have any money, that you can't support proper rates. No answer. In fact, Community Care wouldn't even respond. Angry yet? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Here's 2021. Now this is 3 quarters, so we didn't even have the last quarter here. The total figure is going to be north of $120 million among the 4 of them. But look at the numbers here. Inclusa, 18 million. Lakeland at 2.7. 34 million for My Choice Wisconsin, 34 million for Community Care. And they weren't done yet, so we got another quarter to tack on here. What is that money for? Now it goes into this, it comes from the state with the name of your loved one on it. That money is intended for your loved one to be used for care. Somewhere in the washing machine, that gets lost. And what comes out on the other end is a lesser amount that imperils us as a group, perils our well-being. This may be where some of it's going. So these are the executive salaries of these organizations. So here is My Choice Wisconsin, better than $400K. Here is Inclusa, $465,000. Community Care, again, a little over $400K. Now you put this in perspective, and we have a nonprofit here. Now they have to have somebody leading this team, and they have to have salaries, attract people, but these kinds of salaries would challenge for-profit enterprises that have stakeholders that have, they expect profits to be made and things. Nonprofits, no, not. So what does it mean to have the MCO salaries more than the President of the United States, more than the governor of the state, more than any state agency? What is the explanation for that? Now, mind you, they help pay for care, but they don't provide the care themselves. Nicole, her team, everybody here, and other providers in the state, they're the ones that are actually putting a caregiver in a home, paying for that home and everything that goes with it. So they're insulated to a lot of the things that we have to come up with to make that work. So as I mentioned here, that money has got your loved one's name on it at the state level. It goes through the washing machine, the MCO, and then we get a lesser amount on this end. So, what are some of the questions that you can ask your legislator? Because, when I was a young leader, one of the things that was shared with me is everybody works for somebody. Okay, so there's always a recourse. You just go back, undo the DNA, and you're going to find out who they work for and who can be touched and who can be influenced. Now, here in Wisconsin, I have found that the MCOs have got this wonderful kind of little bubble where seemingly they answer to DHS, but they really don't. The money comes through DHS, but the accountability is not there. Because if you wanted to get an answer about an MCO at DHS, they won't even respond to your email. I've tried. It doesn't work that way. But who does everybody in the state respond to? The elected officials we have here. We know that because a year and a half ago, when we leaned in on this biennial budget formation, we were able to do that. With your help, every one of these town hall sessions we had, and Tim was in on one with me at the state level, and Janet was in on one, and many of you all were in on things like that. This is how you influence people. What came back at the end when they were finalizing the budget was this. Caregiving in this state was in the top 3 of every subject that came up at these town hall meetings. We've got to do something about it. So in an unprecedented way, they committed $240 million for 2 years, each year. Actually, the second year was about 239 or something like that, but 240 million extra that was a direct pass-through to people like us. Legislators said, MCOs, you don't get touch this money. This is going straight to providers, and we got it. Meanwhile, the bank robbery in the back door where they were taking these huge profits was going on. So in the end, it didn't help us to the degree that the lawmakers intended. And this is a critical leverage point for us, is leveraging this piece. Did you know this? Do you know? I bet you legislators, and you can ask yours if you know them very intimately, do you know this is going on? Was this system, when they launched family care all the way back 15 years ago, was it designed to make the MCOs rich and put providers out of business? Lose money? Now, MCOs are nonprofits. Why do they make money? The federal statute on this in the formation of an MCO or a nonprofit allows a nonprofit to take profits once in a while if for some purpose that advances the cause. I don't know how $70 million in Community Care's case does that, and how it is. You can go further back, and I encourage you to do that, but if you go back more years, they're making profits years beyond. Every year they're making money. So, what's going on there? MCOs in Wisconsin provide $12 an hour in their rates. We all know what it costs. We have trouble struggling to hire somebody at that $20 figure, and you know what the average is, we have to put benefits on top of that. So it costs more than that to hire somebody. Now, providers are going out of business. Why? Because they put this question to themselves. Why would anybody do this? Knowing all these demands, why would anybody do this? And if the answer comes back, I don't know why we're doing it, it's game over. This is what happened to Bethesda. Same age as we are, same business we are, they're gone today. No longer in the state. Many more like them have left. Now, why are we here? This is a bigger cause than just money. You guys have invested in St. Coletta, you've become part of the St. Coletta family. This is truly God's mission on earth. That's what we believe. That's why we're still here. This is why we fight for every piece of this to make it go. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. But where is the oversight? Is DHS, do they know about these profits? Did they say it's okay? What if legislators said they don't get to make these profits? Okay, here's the limit. And they could do that. Here's the limit. That money should be going to providers. That's why we passed it. But it doesn't. The last one there, just one of those things that irritates you. Why is that so? How is that helping my loved one? Is the span of responsibility so great that they should get that kind of compensation? If the answer is yes, okay. We still have to figure out how to do it. So what can you do here? With the knowledge you have about MCOs in these challenging rates, and knowing that they're nonprofit private companies, should they be able to keep it? This is a good question for a legislator. Should they be able to keep that money? We're going to go back in this next budget year here, and we're right on the cusp of that, and ask for more money to fill this void. This is a good start. Let's get that $120 million back. That's another $120 million you don't have to ask the state for. It's just regulating the MCOs. Now, finally, there is an initiative underway called market-based rates. And what it is it's a requirement, or would be a requirement, that basic entry-level rates be provided to people like St. Coletta. That is, MCOs, you don't get a choice to whittle this down. This is the rate, the minimum rate. Now, you can go up from there, but this is the minimum rate. And there's a complex formula to do it. And they look at other competitive wages in the market, in light industrial and retail, in order to come up with that number. It's very detailed. It covers transportation, medical appointments, all kinds of things. So the state has employed a company in Brookfield called Milliman. They're a state, they're a company in this state, but they're also in other states. They're an actuarial firm to collect this data, and it's ongoing right now. There is a group of committees established at the state level that are looking at the collection of the information, ensuring that it's on the mark, and that's underway at this moment. In fact, I got in on, I'm part of the state one, and we met yesterday, and some of the stuff disturbs me. Milliman, I think, is doing a good job, but the date on this thing keeps moving. First, it was going to be available in 23, which was fine for us. We need the relief now. It needs to go into this budget formulation, which the governor's budget's going to come out next month in September, at least the first cut of it. We need to move this thing in the next 12 months to make sure that it's part of the 24 through 26 budget, that formulation. It's got to be in there. Now, what I heard yesterday from DHS is, oh, we would have it ready for implementation January 1st of 24, which means we'd have to limp through another 6 months with this same stuff that we got going on. Two things that have to happen in the next 12 months. One, this rate setting structure has to be completed and has to be completed in time. That one is on me because I'm part of this group. I think I can help steer that. But what we have to do together is go after the MCOs to get this money that they've been keeping as profits. That's the first thing. And then second, to make sure through our legislators that either the implementation date gets moved up to July 1st of 23, or that the money is put in and it's appropriated and it's available in the budget so that it could be sent to providers as a, much like the last one, a direct financial benefit with no pass-through of the MCOs. It comes straight to us to help buoy this thing. We have no idea where inflation is going to go here. We have to deal with it. We have no idea where it's going to go. We just have to have a plan to get there. And so, any questions on any of this? Yeah. How am I? I'm good.
I only have one statement. Like private charitable trusts must distribute X number of dollars when they came in. Why can't we petition the legislature to tell this company you have to distribute 90% of the cash that you received?
Yeah. If you look at now these are big budgets. There's a lot of money involved here. I think Community Care and My Choice, their profits are 7%, right in there. So it gives you a sense of how big that is. But you're on it, Bruce. I think this is an effort to go to the legislature and say, listen, this money is meant for our children. Why isn't it getting there? And who's allowing these huge profits to be taken? There's a lot of explaining to do. And I think part of the fact that they won't respond to messages, their CEOs now, as a courtesy, just to respond. They're not even doing that. I know there's a sensitive point here, that they don't want to answer that question. Who would, right? So I think that's where it is. Yeah, I think the answer in that is, it is happening. So somebody is either not controlling it or allowing it to happen. So what the answer to that is, I don't know. But I do think that a group asking for an office call with the DHS secretary to explain this, pretty hard for them to say no. Especially with the help of a legislator that says, we need to get an answer to this thing. Now, the amount of money that they dedicated, now 2 years ago in this budget formulation, they doubled, the legislature doubled what the governor asked for. $240 million is unprecedented in the state. And why did they do that on top of the other funding? They knew the industry was really in tough shape. But I would think they would be angered about that, knowing that they had put all this extra effort into it and knowing that they just robbed them out the back door, right? When we're in such tough shape that way, it's just not right.
I'm just curious if you have an opinion about the recent announcement that Molina is buying My Choice.
Yes, I do. My opinion about that is Molina would not have been interested if they had been a break-even organization. Yeah, Molina is a for-profit company. They're in this to make money. Gosh, that looks pretty good to me. Over $60 million in the last 2 years. Yeah.
I'm trying to get a feel. The Medicaid money is what pays
Medicaid
MCO.
match from the federal government. Yep. Not, yeah, half is the state, half is federal.
It's federal.
Yeah.
So the federal would also be interested in what's going on with this money. How much money from the MCO is going back into the campaign coffers?
I don't know that. I don't.
At least be able to find that.
But it's a good point because Medicaid match money, actually it's about 60% federal, 40% state. But when you start talking about Medicaid fraud, this money is meant for the support of people with disabilities, not for somebody's pocket. What are they doing with this money? Right? Well, I think Community Care now has decided they're going to do a foundation. For what purpose, I don't know, but it's an effective way of kind of dodging the question. That is, well, it's going to go for some other purpose. We're going to give this money to people in need. We're people in need right now. Yeah.
The reason the politicians aren't looking at this, there is a reason they ignore it.
Yes. We do know some. Now let's talk about that a little bit. We've got a legislator coming on the 22nd. Tim is helped arrange. She's coming for a visit, and she's going to get the same information. We have a lobbyist on tenure in Madison that works for us, and he knows also who the right people are, because that's who we reached out to get this money 2 years ago. And so, yeah, we have a list of people. A little bit about the lobbying effort, though. You cannot, in the state of Wisconsin, you cannot talk to legislators more than 3 hours unless they're your legislator in your district. You can talk to them as much as you want. So you can see, if you're trying to get a broad brush, it's harder to do that. So what's happened as a result is, I've had to register as a lobbyist. I did that 2 years ago. And so I have to submit a report, but it gives me the ability to go across other lines. Robin is registering in December so that she's ready, and she can take this fight too, and we can work in essentially 3 different directions to touch legislators. But we are available to talk to anyone that you might bring to us. Yeah. There's one disclaimer, not disclaimer, but one word of caution in this is collusion as it relates to family care. And some of this stuff was designed to allow what's happening now. So if I'm engaged in orchestrating certain things, they could come back and charge me with collusion. I've already been investigated twice by MCOs, or they've asked for it, when we provided rate information to family members. Okay, now that is not illegal, or we wouldn't have done it. In fact, today, when you leave here, you'll get a little envelope that shows what we get paid and what it costs for care. Okay, if you're a public pay in Wisconsin, you'll get that. We're ready to talk about that with you so that you understand it and know about it. But nowhere on there is St. Coletta, Wisconsin. Nowhere on there is my signature line or anything, because of the sensitivity. We're in this together, obviously, but there are certain things you have to be aware of. I can't tell you to pick an MCO. I wouldn't do that anyway. That's illegal. There's a lot of, my old line of work, a lot of tanglefoot, if you will, Steve, there. We have to be careful about.
You mentioned how successful Illinois has been, but it sounds as if that's a totally different situation.
It is. It's different. You know, and to understand it, as it existed in Wisconsin before family care, your ability to support your daughter was related to a call to a county official who, you know, they put their budgets together every year, and if there's an increased need, it makes it into the budget, and that all filters up and allows us to break even. This is similar to what goes on in the state. You just reach out to your elected official in your area and you're able to influence it. Here it's a little different. If you would go to a legislator and say, I need your help, they would say, well, I appropriated. I was part of this landmark legislation that provided this extra money. I've done what I can do. That's a governmental bureaucracy issue, this thing here. What I'm saying or offering to you is you have the ability, though, uniquely as a taxpayer to reach out and touch a legislator in a different way, and to say, you're also responsible for oversight as an elected official. I sense fraud in this. Can you give me an answer? I mean, who could answer that?
Have you heard the word fraud at all?
I haven't. I've said it a few times. In fact, I said on TV in an article a year ago that it was broken. Family care was broken. It didn't seem to move the needle. Janet Stockhausen sent me an article from the Capital Times titled, Providers Lose While MCO's Profits Soar. It's out there. Why it doesn't get traction, not sure. But individually, we can create enough noise about it. Robin is working with actually a reporter that had worked for the Sentinel Journal, but she's written for the New York Times. She's in New York State, about putting together an article that could have some sensationalism about it on this. So we're committed to doing this on a number of levels. We're lucky that, and Robin didn't know this when she reached out, but this woman, we served her uncle here for 40 years, and two of her uncles were on the board here. One of them was board chair in 1976. So they have a deep involvement with us already we didn't know about. So we're looking for some help there. This is, it has to be a constant drumbeat, though, of us all working together to try to make this go. We're committed to helping you with whatever information you need, whether very specific or more general, so that you're well, I guess, educated or informed about the issue and can take it to legislators. So, yeah. Okay. On that bright note. Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, you know, don't forget this. This is a fight. It's been a fight forever. It's been a fight forever here. The sisters fought it before us. We're just the modern incarnation of that. And we're committed to winning this thing. So, cool. Yeah.
Good morning. Forgive me, I'm getting older. It's like close, take it off, further away, put it on. So that's what's going to happen. Just want to say this past year has presented many challenges. However, throughout the year, we continue to ensure that your loved one has a very full and enjoyable and safe life. So rest assured, our commitment to provide consistently high quality care has never wavered. We have a tagline here, it's in the people. It's in the people. And being in the people is not only with our clients, but also with our caregivers. Just want to take a minute. I have a couple of pictures here. Just want to take a minute on it. Our caregivers helps people with maybe writing a check out of their checkbook, maybe making a meal. Maybe it's the simple act of brushing their teeth, fellowshipping with one another, understanding the do's and don'ts in life sometimes. You have to give that counsel. What's our connection to nature and the world? Our caregivers do so much. And so we're asking to care for our caregivers who care for our loved ones. The employment market has been very difficult. Most, if not every organization is looking for people to hire. In May 2022, there were 11 million job postings. The size of the U.S. workforce is now shrinking, and 6.5 females have left the regular workforce to take care of their children and other family members. Many workers did not return because of COVID. Many older workers have retired and left the workforce. Many others found jobs that they could do remotely from home. Those who want or need to work just want daytime hours so they can be with their children. Many do not want full-time hours here, and most now want a much better work-life, flexible schedule. And we see that particularly in our younger workers. I just want to take a minute to just take a look at this graph, or these graphs that I have here. What we're seeing here at St. Coletta is a changing workforce, and we do recognize that we need to be nimble with that. At the top left-hand corner here, you'll see that by location, so Greater Milwaukee's or GMA, Illinois, and Jefferson, this is currently the number of staffing that we have in each region. Now you might think that, okay, this is not too bad, or that's not a lot of employees at all. And if you think the latter, you're correct. This number is quite short, and I'm going to do a comparison in the next slide. But I want to show you that these two regions, Greater Milwaukee and Illinois, are pretty much comparable in size, in an amount of clients that we serve, and also in the amount of caregivers that we have. And then Jefferson is our biggest outfit at this time. And through that, when we look and we compare the areas, just want to show you that the length of service, the average length of service, has actually decreased. So you're looking around 2.1 in the Greater Milwaukee area, and our Greater Milwaukee is comprised of Waukesha and our newly Brookfield location, Grace Landing. Then we have Illinois, which is at 3, and Jefferson, which is at 3.3 years, which is more stable. But we have seen a trend that is quite interesting and peculiar. And what it is, we have full and part-time DSPs that are staying with us, so our retention rate is pretty good. In fact, we're at 79%. But we're at 79%, which is pretty high. However, what's happening is that our DSPs are moving into our sub or pool area of staffing. So we may retain our staff, but what they're doing is they're going into another area where they can actually pick and choose and select their schedule. So it kind of skews things a little bit. It's a new trend for us. So here's the comparison by area with openings that I wanted to mention. Just letting you know that we have 34 openings in Jefferson, which is quite an astounding number. It is hard when you have less scheduled staff and staff that just wants to pick up shifts whenever, because then you have open spots that you need to fill to cover the care. Greater Milwaukee, we have 19, and then in Illinois, we have 11 openings. And they're all broken down by different homes in different areas, so you can see that. So John Stockert actually sent, just earlier this week, an email to me, and I wanted to just share it with you. It's not politicizing anything, it's just a little commentary to put perspective a little bit. So this point is talking about gasoline. If we're gonna look at gas as a liquid, and we're gonna compare it to modern day comparisons with inflation and whatnot. So just looking to say that if gas was to be compared to a Starbucks coffee, your Starbucks coffee would be quite expensive at $16.80 a gallon. I don't have to go anything further into it and belabor the point, but my next thing is I just want to talk about inflation. So as many of you know, the annual inflation rate for 2020 was just 1.2%. It increased to 4.7% in 2021, and then as June of 2022, it had increased and almost doubled to 9.1%. Everyone's cost is increasing at an unacceptable level. It includes you, it includes St. Coletta, it includes us. Our most major cost is to pay our caregivers a dignifying wage. And we know that we must start paying our new caregivers with no experience at $16 an hour. Experienced caregivers may get paid up to $19 or $20 an hour. And if the inflation rate continues to escalate, we will be forced to pay even more to hire and retain our high-quality caregivers. I want to stress on a point that most of our caregivers, nearly 90%, are female. And a lot of them are single mothers who are trying to make a living. Some may have to have, 2 jobs just to get by. In 2022, we hired and trained 61 new caregivers. Fortunately, like I said before, our retention rate is at 79%, which is good and better than other organizations. But again, I have to come back to, what's going on in the trend in our marketplace at this point in time. A lot of people are looking for that flexibility where they can pick and choose their schedule. We're a 24-hour, 365 gig, right? It's something that we have to really try to work with. Maybe we do increase our sub-pool even that much more than what we have. Because if we don't go with the times, we might find ourselves in some trouble. Let me assure you, though, we are recruiting caregivers through all traditional methods, including high schools, job fairs. However, we're also recruiting folks in creative ways, too, such as Facebook referral posting contests, job posts through church bulletins, senior centers, and even a Chamber of Commerce bulletin. We've gone through there and through social media. To reduce our need for caregivers, we proactively closed several homes. You may or may not have heard of this, that we've done this. We've been doing this. We do this to be efficient, but this year in particular, we've closed 2 homes, and we're looking about even closing another 2 in short order. And we do this not only to just save money, but what we do is we take the staff that are in that home, and we integrate them into existing staff fills. So when we do this, what I like to share is that we don't discharge anyone, so no client is discharged, and then no staff lose their job over it either. We offer them something. At the end of August, we will have just 4 open spots to serve new people. So our client census is pretty high. We are very close to capacity when serving our clients. So when we're trying to move and do different switches and stuff, it becomes extremely difficult. And there's a lot of mindful planning that goes in play when that happens. And the need in all communities to care for more people is growing rapidly because, as Ted said, providers are going out of business due to the poor reimbursement costs from the funders. Many of you will remember Bethesda, which is a very large provider in Watertown that even had to close its doors. As you can imagine, smaller providers face even more difficulties trying to survive. One thing I also want to just put out there is that we are continually striving to operate our residential and day programs as efficiently as possible so we don't waste any funds. We are also diligently pressing legislators, as Ted had mentioned earlier, in Illinois and in Wisconsin to increase our funding levels. However, it's proven to be very difficult to get them to understand how important it is to increase the amount of funding required to provide services to your folks, to our folks. We need your help and anyone else you may know who can positively influence our legislators. I just want to leave you with this. If you leave here today and you're going to take anything away, I want to say, in spite of all of our staffing challenges that we have faced this year, be rest assured your loved one's health and safety remains the most important principle for us, for which comes at a great cost. And we upkeep that. We uphold that. We make sure that the health and safety of your loved one doesn't waver. So that's it for me, but I just wanted to put one last slide. Just letting you know the kind of care that we give. We have a lot of beautiful, loving-spirited caregivers, and we want to keep supporting them so that they can support our loved ones. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole, and good morning. Morning. Most of you are used to seeing me go last and speed through the end of my presentation, but after 10 years, I'm in third, so thank you, I'm gonna enjoy it. But I probably will still talk quickly because old habits die hard. Fund development, let's chat a little bit about this last year fiscally that ended in June 30. So fund development had a really strong year. We came in just shy of $4.4 million against a $2.7 million goal. Now, if you're wondering how it compared to the previous year, fiscal 20 to 21, we closed at about $3.3 million. Both really good years, and I'm happy to see the upward trajectory. This year, we had a very successful annual fund drive, and that included our end-of-year appeal, the gala, virtual appeals like Giving Tuesday, and a robust grant and foundation solicitation program. We also received a couple of substantial major gifts and over $1.4 million in legacy giving. We have a lot to be thankful for this year. I wanted to highlight the amount of unrestricted dollars that have come in at $3.6 million. This is exactly where I would hope it would be, about 83% of total giving coming in to use those to go toward areas of greatest need. To Ted's point about rates and advocacy and why this year is so critical in the fight at what's going on at the MCO level is because in less than 6 years' time, we've raised over $17 million. And should we be able to push that money to the foundation, we would be in a much different circumstance today. Our industry is in dire need of good advocates, and you as family members and your loved ones' stories can make all the difference. This slide is a quick glance at some of our major foundations we received support from through the year. The lines highlighted in green are foundations that we've built strong relationships with over time, and they have become consistent annual supporters. The two foundations that you see in blue are brand new this year that we just earned the opportunity for an award. This is really important to note because while it's very important to have those consistent organizations give to us, it's just as important to go out there and find new ones. Competition for grant money is at an all-time high, and Katie Simon, our grant writer, has done a wonderful job finding new opportunities to apply to. This specific area has a lot of potential, and we'll be pushing very hard over the next few years, so much so that we've included it in our strategic plan. Speaking of our strategic plan, while I oversee both marketing and fund development, I wanted to spend some time on the fundraising side because our two main focuses at St. Coletta are operations and fund development. And when you break down fund development further, there are two main focuses within the department that we are going to be paying close attention to. So the first one is an increase of our annual fundraising dollars to help close and cover our operational gap. And the second one is a calculated plan to build the foundation to a healthy level to help sustain our operations and mission long term. So to increase, I guess, how are we going to do this? So to increase our annual fund program, we are going to focus on building up appeals and activities that have strong earning potential while eliminating or de-emphasizing activities that might be fun but aren't producing a strong enough return. We want to also focus heavily on our community businesses by building a corporate sponsorship program that provides annual public relation opportunities for the business instead of just being called out at a single event. We want to leverage the businesses, their employees, and their commitment to St. Coletta year-round. In addition, Katie has been challenged with finding over $450,000 annually, and now is our hope that much of that $450,000 will come from new resources. Right now, we are focusing very heavy on local private family foundations, both in Wisconsin and Illinois. This is an untapped market that we are just scratching the surface on. So as we continue to build a strong annual base for operations to utilize, we can't forget the long term. It will be imperative to build our reserve to at least $25 million in the next 5 years. Why $25 million? With an average approximate return of 7%, we would be able to keep the corpus of $25 million intact and still have almost $2 million available for operational use. If we can get rates to balance and strengthen our annual fundraising, then the growth could stay within the foundation and continue to build and grow over time. Now, there are already a few areas that we are putting a lot of attention on to make sure this happens. The first one is planned giving. So working with families to secure a gift at the end of their life and honor the services that we have provided to their loved one is a major priority. I've gone through fiscal years with and without legacy gifts, and I can tell you the organization is much stronger with them. While we don't know when we will realize these gifts, they always seem to come at the times we need them the most. They are truly a blessing and a gift from above. I had someone once tell me that these conversations aren't easy, but that it brings them great comfort to know St. Coletta is here to serve their loved one today because someone long ago was generous enough to do the same. They're happy to pay it forward. In addition to planned giving, we will also perform an asset review to determine what is still a good investment for our organization. This will be done with a number of leaders to make sure we're making smart decisions. In addition, and probably the biggest objective, is that we will have to fund our foundation by launching a major fundraising campaign, which we are calling a sustainability campaign. So what is a sustainability campaign? Well, if you've been a part of St. Coletta for a while, you may recall from 2008 to 2011, we ran a $3 million campaign to help renovate the Alverno building, which is what we're in right now, and to modify it to become our new headquarters. It was a major capital campaign separate from annual giving that allowed families to pledge an amount over a 3-year period that would be restricted and used to update this building. The campaign was successful and the building is proof. But a sustainability campaign is also a major fundraising campaign, but it wouldn't be used to build buildings. It would be to invest those gifts in our mission and into our future. We have started to successfully build out the components necessary to develop and implement a sustainability campaign. It's a tongue twister, I'm sorry. So this is the effort that has gone into the first phase of the campaign. For starters, we decided to find a third-party consultant that could perform a feasibility study to determine if it was the right time for a large campaign. After a number of interviews, we settled on Baker Street Consulting, who is veteran and family-owned here in Wisconsin. They recently won a state bid to help the DNR determine if it was the right time to build a new education center at Devil's Lake State Park. They have a lot of knowledge, fair pricing, and so in December, we signed a contract with them to perform a feasibility study, which occurred earlier this year. The study was an interview of 48 stakeholders who have been very involved and active in the St. Coletta mission. They were a smattering of parents, siblings, former and current board members, and our sisters that equally represented our service areas. After the final report was in, the recommendation was to immediately begin planning for a major campaign. From their data, they believed that we could raise at least $5 million and up to $10 million, depending on the length of the campaign that we chose. Typically, longer campaigns allow donors to extend their pledges out further, which makes giving larger amounts more palatable. Once we received the report, we began to search for someone that could help chair the steering committee. With a committee, it would be tasked to provide support and help make connections. I am happy to announce that we selected a chair, and she is a sibling of someone here in Jefferson and has both ties to Milwaukee and Chicago. She's financially savvy, and actually, she played a role in a major fundraising campaign for Habitat for Humanity. She's going to be fabulous. Are you curious who she is? I bet you are. But my lips are sealed for now, and we're going to formally introduce her to the board later this year. We are incredibly excited and very appreciative of the time that she's willing to dedicate to something like this. Also, our next steps are going to include actively seeking volunteers for the role of steering committee members, and then commencing next year for a major kickoff meeting that will include Baker Street and educational component. If everything goes well, we will be doing a private launch in fall of 2023. So changing topics a little, something I mentioned earlier that's a priority in development is planned giving. A lot of the times when we have these conversations with younger parents and siblings, we hear comments like, I don't know what assets I'm going to have when I'm older, or I have kids in college or other plans, and I'm just not sure what I can do to help you now. So something we are starting to talk a lot about here at St. Coletta is life insurance policies. Now, there are a number of different kinds of life insurance policies, but specifically today, I want to talk about term life insurance. So term life insurance is when you purchase a policy for a set period of time, and if you pass within those policy terms, your beneficiary receives a payment. Typically, life insurance policy payments are paid, the premium is paid monthly or annually, and the cost depends on the amount of coverage, your age, gender, and overall health. So I have a chart here, and what it basically shows is the ages between 50 to 70, depending on the person's age, with also a term limit of 15 to 20 years. So let's take a 60-year-old female, for example. The average cost for a 20-year policy is $42 for $100,000 worth of coverage. That adds up to be about $504 a year. The total investment over a 20-year period is just over $10,000. If this woman were to pass away before the age of 80, St. Coletta would receive $90,000 more than had she written yearly checks for $500. Kind of a big difference, right? What also you have to understand, and the wonderful thing about life insurance policies, was if you would actually transfer the ownership of the policy into St. Coletta's name, you can deduct the amount of that premium on your taxes each year. So really it's a benefit to both parties and would provide a substantial gift to the event of your passing. When we talk about plan giving, it really isn't ever too early to start thinking about it. So I wanted to spend a minute talking about our upcoming Lead the Charge Gala. This is a fundraiser that's going to take place on September 24th at Blue Mountain Golf and Country Club in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. The tickets are $140, and they include dinner, drinks, the awards program, our live and silent auctions as well. New this year is the introduction of an MC that's outside of the St. Coletta family. The gal you see on the screen is a Fox 6 reporter, Amanda Gerlaski, and she's actually covered a few of our stories on their Fox 6 morning show. She has ties to Jefferson, and her grandparents actually donated to help construct the old Angel Fountain at the original campus. She's bubbly, she's bright, she has a full-time position in pharmaceutical sales, and she understands the importance of these events, and she's ready to help us meet our $200,000 goal this year. If you'd like to register for the gala, you can go to sdcgala.com. If you're unable to attend, the silent auction is open to everyone. All you need to do is register, and you can bid even from afar. So with the gala comes new honorees this year, and we're excited to have a number of wonderful people being recognized. Our 2022 Outstanding Achievement Award winner will be Marquette University, and more specifically, their College of Nursing. As part of Marquette's undergraduate community health clinical course, Marquette nursing students have been instrumental in helping clients who attend the St. Coletta Intergenerational Care Center in Brookfield. Marquette University students spend 8 hours a week per week assessing and planning, implementing, and evaluating IGC clients' chronic and acute health issues. The IGC welcomed its first group of Marquette nursing students in the fall of 2021. Each day on site, 8 Marquette students are given the opportunity to hone their therapeutic communication skills and practice assisting clients with activities of daily living. As they grow into full-fledged nurses, they also develop deep bonds with our wonderful clients. The students who work closely with St. Coletta Nursing, and together they have built a wonderful hands-on collaboration to help the next generation of nurses. And of course, we could not honor Marquette University College of Nursing without honoring St. Coletta's nurses. So our 2022 Achievers of the Year will be Shelley, Dan, Diane, and Terry, both in Wisconsin and Illinois. Our 4 nurses at St. Coletta have held their own through the entire major pandemic and the overall nursing operations day to day. They're caring and compassionate professionals that don't always get the recognition they deserve. They're hardworking and care so much about our folks. We're incredibly honored to give them their moment to shine and award them this year as our Achievers of the Year. Last, but certainly not least, we have our 2022 Believer of the Year Award, Tina Goldstone, who's the mom of daughter Daniela, served here in Jefferson, and is a published author. Now, Tina is a one-of-a-kind woman. You're gonna make me cry, don't? Oh, guys. So she's a one-of-a-kind woman who set forth 4 years ago on a journey to publish St. Coletta's story. She's worked tirelessly on interviews, researching, and editing to create an interesting and factual document that tells our story so eloquently. Tina's actually here today. If you could stand up, we'd like to give you a round of applause. Oh. It is not often to find someone willing to dedicate themselves to a project like this, and we are incredibly thankful to her that she did. I've personally read her book, and I love it, and there's a number of things that I've learned about our history. So thank you, Tina, and congratulations on your upcoming award. And I would be behooved if I wouldn't say books are on sale in the lobby for $25. Tina donated the first printing set, and so all money goes to proceed and benefit St. Coletta of Wisconsin. So thank you again, Tina. Yes. All right. Lastly, I wouldn't be a good fundraiser if I didn't ask you all for something today. So we are in need of creative and fun auction items, and on the screen, you're going to see a few ideas that have gone over well in the past and that people really enjoyed. Things like gift cards, tickets to sporting events, Airbnb rentals, boating activities, and handmade items. We already have a number of wonderful things and are hoping to get a bunch more in the upcoming weeks. If you have something to donate, please contact me or Betsy Bright. And then in closing, more importantly than anything that I've set up to this moment, I want to take a minute and thank you all in this room and those listening at home. You are the reason we are so lucky to do what we do here at St. Coletta, and we are grateful for your investment of time, talent, and passion for our organization. It really does take us all, and we are so thankful to you for your everlasting support of the sisters, our mission, and special people. Thank you again for everything. I hope you have a wonderful time today. And now I'm going to pass it off to Mario, who's going to give you some warm and fuzzies and maybe a few laughs. Thank you.
Good morning. So we just have heard Ted, Nicole, and Robin tell us all the different initiatives that we are doing here at St. Coletta to ensure that the people we love are safe, happy, and healthy, and that they're living good quality of life. And so the question is, what do you think is the basis of all this hard work? There is only one word that I can think of. It is love. Because love is at the center of our Franciscan vision, mission, and values. And that is actually what I am going to share with you this morning. So when you come into our corporate building, this is the first sign that you see. Oftentimes, our eyes are drawn to the big letters, and we seldom see these small letters that says, sponsored by the Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi. What does that mean, to be sponsored by the Sisters of St. Francis? That means that we need to continue to be faithful to the identity and culture of the sisters who established St. Coletta. And so when we become members of our St. Coletta family, we become the bearers of the Franciscan tradition. So tradition, what does tradition mean? Tradition actually comes from the Latin word tradere, which means to hand over. And the best way I can think of to explain that word is by using an example. And the example I think that would be the best way to explain it is the relay race. The relay race requires a perfect harmony between the runner and that hands over the baton and the runner that receives the baton. The runner needs to be holding on to the baton because once you drop the baton, then you are disqualified from the race. The runners do not run the whole course. They only run part of the course. And the baton is the only thing that goes through the whole course. And since the Franciscan tradition started with St. Francis and St. Clare, we could say that they were the first runners. So the baton was handed by them to St. Coletta. St. Coletta, who is the namesake of our organization, is actually a reformer in the Franciscan history. She was well known for her faithfulness to the mission. That's why you could see there, be faithful to the mission. Those were his words. And then now, Saint Coletta handed that baton over to the sisters. So you can see there Sister Diana and the other sisters in the administration. And then the sisters handed over the baton because their numbers have been dwindling. They have handed over the baton now to us. That's why you can see there now. Okay? Robin? So we are now the bearers of the Franciscan tradition. Like what Ted said, we are now continuing the fight that was fought by the sisters. Now, what does that baton symbolize? That symbolizes the Franciscan vision of life. This is actually Blessed Solanus Casey. I put his picture there because of his glasses, because it's the vision that is important, the vision of St. Francis. Where does that vision come from? That vision comes from St. Francis' understanding of the book of creation. What he saw in the scripture, in the book of creation, was that God as a Trinity was an eternal, loving family. And like what Archbishop Fulton Sheen said, love cannot be loved unless it is shared. So God, because he is pure love, has to share his love, and he did that by creating us. So we actually become, because of that, part of that eternal love. And what St. Francis saw is that God, the Trinity, the whole creation, the cosmos, us, nature, everything, we are all inside that love. The sisters actually use the symbol of a cobweb to show the interrelatedness of creation. In a cobweb, you cannot touch one part without moving all the other parts. Here at St. Coletta, we chose to express that unity of everyone with the word compassion. Believe it or not, the word compassion means the womb of a mother who is giving birth. Compassion means giving life. And so we are all actually part of the womb of God's love. We all come from God. So we are all interrelated. So we could say that love, like what I said earlier, is the center of our vision, of our values, and our mission. And so how do we stay connected to this mission? How do we continue to be faithful to that? There are several things that we do to do that. And the first way to do that is for us to stay connected to our Franciscan roots. Those relics in the picture are actually here. This year we're very happy because we received these relics. This is the relic of the Holy Cross. This is part of the true cross. That's why this is, of all the relics that we have, this is the most important one. This came from the Reichert family, the family of Sister Mary George and Sister Giulietta. This was given to them by Cardinal Cushing. And when their family handed this over to us, they told us that this is a miraculous relic because it has cured somebody in their family who have a very serious illness. And when we receive it, just a few weeks after that, Ted's friend was the recipient of the miracle of this relic. He was very seriously sick. Ted brought this relic to him, touched him with this relic, and miraculously, he recovered. These are the relics that we have. We have all of this because of Robin. She talked to the sisters and asked from them this relic of St. Francis, St. Clare, and St. Anthony of Padua. And then these other two relics are the relics of St. Therese and St. Coletta. Why is it very important to us to have them? Because they are visual reminder to us of their holiness and virtue and helps us to be more faithful to our mission. Then the next thing we do is we celebrate the life, the death of St. Francis and his love for nature and animals. Every year we do that. We celebrate Founders' Day. So every September, we remember our founders. Last year, we decided to have it there by the grotto. So you can see there Ted giving us the history of the grotto. And you can see on the other side the Bishop of Madison telling us about the spiritual benefits of our devotion to Our Lady of Lourdes. Incidentally, do you know that Saint Bernadette, the visionary of Our Lady of Lourdes, was actually a person with intellectual disability? She was one of the saints we have in the Catholic Church who have a disability. So during that celebration, we also remember the time when the sisters came and ate nothing but potatoes and tea. And that's what we serve during Founders' Day. We also celebrate Sisters' Jubilee. So you can see there, Ted giving them mementos of St. Coletta and thanking them for their service to the church. Then we also have this year the Sisters Associate program. You can see there Sister Ann Kelly explaining to our staff what it means to become an associate of the sisters. We have several staff actually who are in the process of joining that program. Then we also continue to work with the sisters. When the Ukraine war broke out, the sisters were making stuffed animals. So they saw the shell of the toys, and they gave that to us, and our clients were the ones stuffing them. Then once we put together the project, then we sent them to Ukraine. Then Assisi pilgrimage. We joined the other sisters' organizations of St. Coletta, and we send the staff there every year to Assisi. And this pilgrimage is always led by Sister Joanne. Then we also stay connected to our mission. Every year, we celebrate mission effectiveness. This year, we honored 62 employees for their combined total of 455 years of service. And we also honored 18 presidential awardees. These are the staff that was given the Presidential Medal for their exemplary work in showing the mission of St. Coletta. We also have the most important yearly celebration that we have, client recognition. This is like the Oscar Award at St. Coletta. This is the most anticipated award. Everybody's talking about that before and after the celebration. This year, we honored 53 clients for their 1,365 years of participation at St. Coletta. And then we do not forget our clients, whether they continue to be with us or not. These three, you could say, actually came back to us after they have passed away. They asked if they could come, their service providers asked if they could come and for us to provide them with funeral service and burial services. The reason? Because they are poor enough not to have any money to pay for the funeral and burial services. And we tell them, yes, bring them back to us and we will do that. You could see here, Buster, he died when he was 85 years old. He came to St. Coletta when he was 9. He left when he was 64 years old and lived in the community until he passed away. Then the next one is JT. She came to St. Coletta when she was 10 years old, and then she stayed with us for 30 years. Then she came back after she passed away because, again, there was no money for funeral and burial. And the last picture there is Alvin. Alvin was at St. Coletta for 22 years, and the same story as the other two. Then we stay connected to our spiritual life. You know that we have 3 chapels, one here, one in Waukesha, and one in Illinois. I specifically put Waukesha here. You can see Father Al there. Father Al is our chaplain in Waukesha. I chose Waukesha here because this year we renovated the chapel there at Waukesha. Robin got the money, and under the direction of Ted, our maintenance people, improved our chapel in Waukesha. And we also have here our Coletta Franciscans. Our Coletta Franciscans are actually a combination of clients and the staff. The Coletta Franciscans, we studied the Bible stories, we studied the life of St. Francis, and we prayed the rosary. Here you could see that the reenactment of the various important parts of our salvation history. One is the incarnation, then here, you could see in here the entrance of Jesus into Jerusalem. But if you notice here, we have here a miniature horse instead of a donkey, because the owner told us that the donkey was being stubborn and didn't want to get into the trailer. And so we have here the death of Jesus and burial of Jesus. So we can see here the 3 Roman soldiers. And then we have here the Ascension. So these are the Coletta Franciscans when we have meeting. So you can see there that all of those, the uniforms and everything, those are all courtesy of our fund development. So without our fund development, we would not have that renovation and those reenactments. So please help Robin raise more money. So then we have this Laudato Si project. This Laudato Si is actually in connection with these works of ministry headed by Father Al. Laudato Si is from the Canticle of Creatures that was written by St. Francis. Laudato Si means praise to you. And the purpose of that project is to actually encourage awareness of our connection with nature and that we should reverence creation and thank God for it. That's why it is Laudato Si, praise to you. I think I skipped one. then we also get connected to our orchard, our garden, and our grounds. This is actually where we get the potatoes that we eat for our Foundation Day celebration. And then we also celebrate May crowning. Every May is month of Mary, and so you could see in here Ted and Sister Grace crowning the statue of the Blessed Mother, and you can see Ted giving roses to our female staff, because at the same time we honor our female staff. And you can see on the other side Father Tom blessing them. So here, the Laudato Si project, we built butterfly gardens in all program areas, and then we released the butterflies. So that's the way we become faithful to our mission. We continuously remind ourselves about our mission, and we always have a lot of different activities that enable us to worship God, love one another, and reverence creation. So thank you for being part of our St. Coletta family, and thank you for carrying the baton with us. Let us run together. Thank you.
We went over a little bit on time, and so we want to get you all out to the picnic. We would be available for any questions you might have after this, if you'd just like to connect for a few minutes. One final program note, in the boardroom around the corner, so just past the bathrooms on the right, is a project we have going on upstairs, which it'll be called the Streets of Assisi. And you know, we can only really send a couple of people to Assisi every year. They get the full immersion. They bring those values back and integrate it into our operation. And it's real important. But what you're going to see there is the Streets of Assisi are an opportunity for really anyone to go up and get the Assisi experience, or the important salient points of it. So through the miracle of animation and modern technology, you can see what that hallway will look like in its final form. So it's available in the boardroom. We thank you very much for this last hour and a half. Enjoy the picnic.